I didn't expect him to notice me.
But once he did, I couldn't pretend I didn't feel it. Welcome back to the channel.
If you enjoy BL stories full of slow tension, emotional confusion, and love that grows when it shouldn't, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below.
Now sit back.
This is Toby and Jay's story.
Toby was used to being ignored. He knew how to enter a room without being seen. He knew how to leave before anyone could ask him to stay. He walked through crowded hallways with his head down.
He sat at the back of class. He answered only when teachers called his namato. Most people Toby was just the quiet boy.
The boy who never spoke first. The boy who ate alone. The boy who disappeared before anyone noticed he was gone.
But then Jay sat beside him, and for the first time, someone noticed everything Toby tried to hide. Jay was everything Toby was not. He was loud without trying, confident without forcing it, the kind of person who entered a room and made everyone look. Toby never understood people like Jay. People like Jay were easy to admire from far away,
and dangerous to trust up close. Daniel called from across the classroom. Jay.
Over here, Jay replied. Relax. I'm coming. The teacher looked at Jay and said, Jay, sit down.
The only empty seat is beside Toby. Jay turned toward the quiet boy and asked, Toby? Toby answered, That's my name. Jay studied him for a second and said, You don't talk much, do you?
Toby replied, Only when people actually listen. Jay did not know it then, but that was the first time Toby made him quiet.
At first, Jay thought Toby was strange.
Not in a bad way, just different. Toby never laughed when everyone else laughed. He never joined conversations unless someone pulled him in, and when the class got too noisy, his fingers tightened around his pen. Jay noticed that.
He did not know why, but he noticed.
Jay leaned closer and asked, Are you okay?
Toby answered, I'm fine. Jay glanced at Toby's hand and said, You're holding the pen like it offended you. Toby replied quietly, It's loud. Jay frowned and asked, The pen?
Toby said, The room. Jay looked around.
Students were laughing.
Chairs were scraping.
Someone was tapping on a desk.
Jay's voice dropped. Oh, he said.
Then he paused and added, Sorry. Toby looked at him briefly. He did not say thank you.
He did not move away either. For Toby, that was already a lot.
Most people laughed when he said things like that.
Jay did not. Jay simply became quieter, and Toby noticed that too. After that day, Jay started doing things without planning them.
When Toby skipped lunch, Jay bought extra food.
When Toby forgot his water bottle, Jay placed one on his desk. When Toby looked uncomfortable in a crowd, Jay stood closer without making it obvious. Toby noticed, but he was afraid to believe it meant anything.
One afternoon, Jay placed food in front of him.
Toby looked at it and said, I didn't ask for that. Jay replied, I know. Toby asked, Then why did you buy it? Jay said, You looked hungry. Toby looked unimpressed. I always look like this, he said. Jay shrugged and replied, Then maybe I should always bring food. Toby looked away.
He tried to hide a small smile.
Jay saw it anyway, that tiny smile. The one Toby tried to parry before it became too honest. Jay took a bite of his food, then glanced at Toby's untouched lunch. Toby noticed immediately. Toby said, You know staring at my food won't make me eat faster. Jay blinked.
Then he laughed softly. Was that a joke?
Jay asked. Toby looked down at his lunch and replied, No, it was a warning. Jay smiled wider. Toby tried to keep a straight face, but the corner of his mouth betrayed him. Jay leaned back and said, So the quiet boy has jokes. Toby picked up his spoon and said, The loud boy has discovery skills. Jay laughed again. Toby looked surprised by the sound, like he had not expected to be funny. Jay noticed that too, and for some reason, making Toby smile felt better than making the whole class laugh. After a while, Jay said, You don't have to talk if you don't want to. For the first time, silence beside someone did not feel like rejection. It felt like permission. Jay opened his own lunch and sat beside him without saying anything else.
And somehow, that made Toby trust him more than 100 questions would have. It became a habit.
Jay noticing, Toby pretending not to care. Jay would slide a bottle of water across the desk before Toby even realized his throat was dry. Toby would whisper thank you so softly that most people would miss it.
But Jay never did.
One morning, Jay pushed the bottle toward him and said, Drink. Toby replied, I am not thirsty. Jay said, You've been rubbing your throat for 10 minutes. Toby looked at him and asked, You watch me that much? Jay replied, I notice things. Toby asked about everyone. Jay did not answer. Toby looked at the water bottle.
Then he drank.
Jay looked away first, not because he did not care, but because he was starting to care too much. Toby lowered the bottle and said, "You make it hard to ignore you." Jay smiled and replied, "Good." Toby said, "That was not a compliment." Jay replied, "I'm taking it as one." Toby rolled his eyes. Jay pointed at him and said, "You do that a lot." Toby asked, "Do what?" Jay replied, "Roll your eyes when you secretly agree with me." Toby looked offended.
"I do not secretly agree with you," he said.
Jay smiled and replied, "You openly disagree, but your face gives you away." Toby took another sip of water and said, "My face would like privacy." Jay laughed. Toby looked away quickly, but not before Jay saw him smiling. Jay said, "You're funnier than people think." Toby's voice became quiet. "People don't usually wait long enough to find out," he said. Jay's smile softened. For once, he did not joke back. He simply said, "Then I wait." Toby looked at him.
Something in his chest became warm and uncomfortable. He did not know what to do with it.
So he looked back at the bottle and muttered, "That was almost a good answer." Jay grinned. "Almost?" he asked. Toby nodded and said, "Don't get proud." But Jay was already proud, not of himself, of Toby. One afternoon in the library, Toby's hair kept falling into his eyes while he studied. Jay watched him push it back once, then twice, then again.
Before he could stop himself, Jay leaned closer.
Jay said, "Your hair?" Toby asked. "What about it?" Jay replied, "It keeps bothering you." Toby said, "It's fine." Jay replied, "It's not."
Then Jay paused. His voice softened as he asked, "Can I?"
Toby looked at him.
Then he slowly nodded.
Jay gently fixed the strand of hair.
For a moment, neither of them spoke.
Jay asked, "Is this okay?" Toby replied, "You already did it." Jay said, "I know, but I still want to know." Toby looked at him, surprised by the question.
People touched his things.
His books, his chair,
his silence, his space.
But Jay asked. That made it different. Toby said quietly, "It's okay." Jay smiled softly and said, "Then I'll ask again next time too." Toby looked back at his book, pretending to focus.
But a few seconds later, he said, "Next time."
Jay froze. Toby turned one page slowly and added, "You're planning future hair rescue missions now." Jay stared at him.
Then he laughed under his breath. "I didn't know you could tease people," Jay said.
Toby kept his eyes on the page.
"I didn't know you could be useful," Toby replied.
Jay placed a hand over his chest like he had been wounded. "That hurt," he said. Toby finally looked up.
His face was serious, but his eyes were not. "Good," Toby said.
"You'll survive." Jay smiled at him for a little too long. Toby noticed.
His own smile faded into something softer.
Neither of them knew what to call the feeling yet, so they both looked back at the book. But neither of them was really reading anymore. Toby did not know why Jay's words stayed with him. Maybe because Jay was not only noticing him, Jay was learning how to care for him properly. Toby said, "You didn't have to do that." Jay replied, "I know." Toby looked down.
His face was calm, but his heart was not.
That was the problem with Jay.
He made small things feel dangerous.
Not because they hurt, but because they mattered.
It rained after school. Students ran toward the gate, laughing and shouting.
Toby stood under the hallway roof, waiting for the rain to slow down.
He had no umbrella, and he hated running through crowds.
Jay noticed from across the hallway. Of course he did. Jay walked over and asked, "You're waiting for it to stop?" Toby replied, "I don't like rain." Jay asked, "The rain or the running?" Toby looked at him and said, "Both." Jay opened his umbrella and said, "Come on." Toby said, "You'll get wet." Jay replied, "I'm already annoying. Wet won't make it worse." Toby almost smiled. Almost. They walked together under the small umbrella. The umbrella was too small for both of them. Jay tried to hold it higher. Toby looked up and said, "You're making it worse." Jay frowned and replied, "I'm trying to help." Toby said, "That's what makes it impressive." Jay looked at him.
"Was that another joke?"
he asked. Toby's face stayed calm.
"No," he replied.
Jay smiled and said, "You're lying." Toby looked straight ahead and said, "I'm practicing." Jay laughed so suddenly that a few students turned to look. Toby lowered his head, embarrassed, but Jay only moved closer and said, "Sorry." "You surprised me," Toby asked, in a bad way. Jay shook his head.
"No," he said.
"In the best way." Their shoulders brushed once.
Then twice.
Jay shifted the umbrella more toward Toby. Toby noticed. "You're getting wet," Toby said. Jay replied, "I'm fine." Toby said, "You always say that when you're not." Jay looked at him. "You noticed too?" he asked. Toby looked away. "Sometimes," he said. Jay smiled. For once, Toby was not the only one being seen. Toby was used to people laughing. They laughed because he was quiet,
because he walked with his head down, because he did not answer fast enough. Most days, he ignored it.
but Jay could not. Not when he saw Toby's shoulders tighten. Not when he saw Toby's eyes drop to the ground.
One student laughed and said, "Careful, he might faint if you talk too loud." Another student added, "Maybe he's too shy to breathe." Jay turned to them and said, "That was not funny." The first student shrugged and said, "We're just joking." Jay replied, "Then laugh at yourself next time." The laughter stopped.
Toby looked at Jay, surprised. Toby did not know what shocked him more,
That someone defended him.
or that Jay looked genuinely angry. Jay did not turn it into a performance.
He did not ask Toby to thank him.
He simply walked beside him after class,
Quietly. Close enough to be there, but not close enough to trap him.
Toby noticed that too. After a few minutes, Toby said, "You know, you looked scary back there." Jay glanced at him and asked, "Scary?" Toby nodded. "Very dramatic," he said. Jay smiled. "I was defending you," Toby replied. "I noticed." The whole hallway noticed. Jay looked worried for a second. Toby softened and added, "But thank you." Jay's smile became quieter. "You're welcome," he said. Then Toby looked away and muttered, "Still dramatic though." Jay laughed.
And Toby smiled before he could stop himself. The real trouble came 2 days later.
Toby was returning from the art room when 3 boys blocked his path. There were no teachers nearby, no crowd, no noise, just Toby, his racing heart, and the kind of fear he had always tried to avoid. One of the boys asked, "Why do you always act like you're better than everyone?"
Toby answered, "I don't."
The boy stepped closer and said, "You don't talk.
You don't look at people.
What's your problem?" Toby tried to move past. The boy blocked him. "Did I say you could leave?"
The boy asked.
Toby's hands began to shake.
Then Jay appeared.
Jay said, "He can leave whenever he wants." The boy turned to him and said, "This has nothing to do with you." Jay replied, "It does now." The boy said, "Move," Jay said. No, Jay's voice was calm.
But his eyes were not.
Then Jay said, "Touch him and you deal with me." A teacher's voice suddenly cut through the hallway.
What is going on here?
The teacher asked. The boys stepped back. They left quickly. Toby stayed frozen. Jay turned around.
For the first time, Toby did not hide how scared he was. His hands were shaking.
His breathing was uneven. And Jay saw everything. Jay brought Toby into an empty classroom. For once, Toby did not try to pretend he was fine.
His hands still trembled.
His breathing was uneven. Jay looked at him like he wanted to fix everything,
but did not know where to start.
Jay said, "Sit down." Toby replied, "I'm okay." Jay shook his head. "No, you're not," he said. Toby sat down. Jay opened a bottle of water and handed it to him. Toby looked at the bottle, then at Jay. "You always do that," Toby said. Jay asked, "Do what?" Toby replied, "Notice when I need something." Jay looked away. "Someone should," he said.
Toby asked, "Why you?"
Jay had no answer.
Because he did not understand it yet. Or maybe he did.
And that was what scared him. Jay finally said, "Because when everyone else walks past you, I can't." Toby looked down and said, "You barely know me." Jay's voice softened.
"I know you hate loud rooms," he said. "I know you pretend you are not hungry. I know you say you are fine when your hands are shaking." Jay paused. Then he added, "And I know you deserved someone to stand there with you." Toby's eyes filled with emotion, but he forced himself to blink it away.
"You make it sound easy," Toby said. Jay replied, "It's not." Jay looked at him.
"But I want to try," he said.
Toby looked down at the bottle in his hands. For the first time, he did not know how to protect himself from kindness. After a moment, Toby whispered, "You're very bad at ignoring people." Jay smiled faintly. "Only you," he said. Toby looked up. Jay seemed to realize what he had said. Neither of them spoke for a few seconds. Then Toby looked back at the bottle and said, "That was a strange answer." Jay nodded.
"Yeah," he said.
It was, but neither of them corrected it. After that day, something changed. Toby stopped hiding from Jay. Jay stopped pretending Toby was just another classmate.
They sat together after school.
Sometimes they talked, sometimes they did not. With Toby, silence did not feel empty. It felt safe. Sometimes Jay talked too much. Sometimes Toby pretended not to listen. But Jay noticed that Toby always remembered everything.
One afternoon, Jay complained about a difficult homework question for nearly 10 minutes.
Toby listened quietly, then took the notebook from him. After a few seconds, Toby said,
"You missed the easiest part." Jay looked offended.
"I was building suspense," he said. Toby wrote the answer and replied, "You were building confusion." Jay stared at the notebook.
Then he stared at Toby. You solved it in 10 seconds, Jay said. Toby shrugged.
You made it dramatic, he replied. Jay smiled slowly. You're actually mean. Toby looked at him. I'm quiet.
People confused that with nice. Jay burst out laughing.
Toby's eyes widened slightly, as if he had not meant to make Jay laugh that hard. Jay leaned back in his chair and said, I like this side of you. Toby looked down at the notebook.
His voice became softer. You haven't seen much of it, he said.
Jay's laughter faded into something gentle. Then show me, he said. Toby did not answer.
But after a moment, he pushed Jay's notebook back and said, Only if you stop making basic math sound like a tragedy, Jay grinned.
No promises, he replied. And just like that, Toby smiled again. Small, careful, but no longer hidden. Later that afternoon, Toby looked at Jay and said, You're different when it's just us, Jay asked. How? Toby replied. Quieter. Jay smiled softly. Maybe you make me quiet, he said.
Toby asked, Is that a bad thing?
Jay shook his head.
No, he said. Then Jay looked at him.
I think it's the only time I feel like myself, he added. Toby's expression softened. He wanted to say something, but he was afraid. Jay wanted to say something too, but he was even more afraid.
So they stayed there, sitting close,
saying nothing, feeling everything. Jay was good at being loud,
good at smiling, good at making people believe nothing bothered him. But Toby had started noticing too.
He noticed the way Jay's smile faded when Daniel interrupted him. He noticed how Jay laughed even when he did not find something funny. He noticed how tired Jay looked when no one was watching.
One afternoon, Jay sat alone near the school field.
For once, he was quiet before Toby arrived. Toby sat beside him and asked, Are you okay? Jay looked up, surprised.
That's usually my line, he said.
Toby replied. You look tired. Jay said, I always look like this. Toby shook his head.
No, you don't, he said.
Jay went quiet. Toby did not push him. He simply opened his bag and brought out a snack.
Then he placed it between them.
Jay stared at it.
Did you just bring me food?
Jay asked. Toby replied. You looked hungry. Jay smiled.
But his eyes softened. You remembered, Jay said.
Toby looked at him and said, I noticed things too. Jay smiled. But his eyes softened even more. I'm starting to realize that, he said.
Toby looked at the snack between them. Then he added, You also chew your pen when you are stressed. Jay blinked.
I do not, he said. Toby looked at him. Jay slowly removed the pen from his mouth.
Toby raised one eyebrow.
Jay pointed at him and said, That proves nothing, Toby replied. It proves I'm observant. Jay shook his head. It proves you're dangerous, he said. Toby almost smiled.
Only academically, he replied.
Jay laughed. For a moment, he forgot to act confident. He forgot to be the boy everyone expected. He was just Jay, and Toby was just Toby, sitting beside him, seeing him. Jay looked at the snack in his hand and said, You're different from what I thought. Toby's voice was quiet when he asked, That different? Jay shook his head. Toby understood that too well.
Being quiet is also pretending sometimes, Toby said.
Jay looked at him. Toby swallowed. Sometimes I'm not calm, he said.
Then he added, Sometimes I just don't know how to be loud about what I feel. Jay's voice softened. You don't have to be loud for me to hear you, he said.
Toby looked away.
But this time, he did not hide his smile. By then, Jay had started looking for Toby without meaning to.
In the hallway.
At lunch.
Across the classroom. He told himself it was normal.
He told himself Toby was just his friend.
But then Toby would make one quiet joke, and Jay would think about it for the rest of the day. Toby had started changing too. Not loudly, not in a way everyone could see.
But he stopped rushing away when Jay came close.
The school campus was unusually quiet after sunset. Most of the students had already gone home, leaving behind only the faint glow of streetlights and the distant chorus of crickets.
The swimming pool had officially closed hours ago, but that didn't stop Jay from leading Toby toward the side gate.
You've really never learned how to swim? Jay asked with a grin.
Toby shrugged.
I've survived this long without it. That's not the same thing.
It's worked so far. Jay rolled his eyes and pushed open the gate.
Toby immediately stopped walking. Wait.
Are we actually allowed in here?
Jay glanced back at him. Trust me. No one comes here this late. Toby folded his arms. I trusted you. That's why I came. Then what's the problem? You forgot to mention we'd be breaking school rules. Jay laughed.
We aren't breaking anything.
Toby pointed toward the large sign hanging beside the pool. The giant pool closed sign disagrees. Nah, nobody's going to see us. Jay started walking backward toward the water. Loosen up a little. Easy for you to say. You worry too much, and you don't worry enough. Jay simply held out his hand. Come on. For a moment, Toby hesitated.
Then he took it. As they headed toward the pool, he muttered under his breath, "This is how people end up in horror movies." Jay laughed.
I'm pretty sure horror movies don't start with swimming lessons. That's exactly what the victim says before something happens. A little later, both of them were in the water. Or rather, Jay was comfortably in the water while Toby clung to him like a lifeline.
"Okay," Jay said.
First lesson, Toby narrowed his eyes. Please tell me it's how to survive. It's how to float. Same thing. Jay shook his head. Lean back. And drown. And float reluctantly. Toby followed the instruction.
For exactly 2 seconds. Then he panicked and shot upright, sending water everywhere.
Nope, Jay laughed. You didn't even try. I did. The water rejected me. Several failed attempts later, Toby resurfaced coughing. I swallowed half the pool. That's physically impossible. You underestimate my abilities. Jay couldn't help laughing. Okay, come here.
He moved closer and gently adjusted Toby's posture. The moment their hands touched, Toby froze. They were suddenly much closer than before.
Close enough for Toby to notice the droplets of water caught in Jay's dark hair.
Close enough to see the curve of his smile. Close enough that he completely forgot to pay attention.
Toby, you're supposed to be listening. Toby immediately looked away. I am listening. Sure you are. Jay guided Toby's hand into position. Trust the water. That sounds fake. A small smile appeared on Jay's face. Trust me then. For a second, Toby simply looked at him.
A second longer than he should have.
Jay noticed. Neither of them said anything.
Then suddenly, a bright beam of light swept across the pool deck. Both boys froze. Who's there?
A voice shouted.
Toby nearly jumped out of his skin.
Jay, the beam moved again. Closer, closer, closer.
I know someone's here, the teacher called.
We did, Toby whispered. We're not dead. Come out right now.
Before Toby could panic any further, Jay grabbed his wrist.
Under. What? Now, the two of them disappeared beneath the water. Instantly, the world became silent. The sounds from above faded into a muffled blur. Everything turned blue, distorted, unreal. Above them, the flashlight beam danced across the surface while the teacher continued searching.
At first, Toby thought he could handle it. 5 seconds.
10.
15. But then panic began to creep in.
His chest tightened.
His lungs burned.
And the teacher still hadn't left.
Toby shook his head. He couldn't do it anymore.
He needed air.
As he started pushing toward the surface, Jay immediately noticed.
The panic in his eyes, the frantic movement, the desperation. Without hesitation, Jay reached out and grabbed his shoulder. Toby turned toward him, confused.
For a brief moment, they simply stared at one another beneath the water.
Then Jay made a decision. He pulled Toby closer, their faces inches apart.
Toby's eyes widened. Before he could react, Jay pressed his mouth against his and shared just enough air to keep him from surfacing. Just enough.
Just long enough. Toby's mind went completely blank. The world around him disappeared. There was only the rush of bubbles, the pounding of his heartbeat, and Jay, suddenly much too close.
Toby gasped for air the moment he broke through. He coughed and struggled to catch his breath. You okay?
Jay asked. Toby stared at him.
His face felt impossibly hot. His brain had completely stopped functioning.
Jay looked confused.
You were running out of air. I know that. Then what's the problem? Toby opened his mouth before blurting out the only thought currently occupying his mind.
You kissed me. Silence followed.
A drop of water slid down Jay's cheek. That's not what happened. Our mouths were literally emergency situation. Toby blinked.
Emergency? Yes, so your solution was to kiss me. Jay crossed his arms.
You wanted me to let you drown. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Toby opened his mouth,
then immediately closed it.
Because honestly, he had absolutely no idea.
Forget it. He quickly turned away, pretending to be interested in the opposite side of the pool. Unfortunately, that did nothing to hide how red his ears had become. For a moment, Jay simply watched him.
Then the corner of his mouth lifted. You still want swimming lessons? No, because of the near drowning.
There was a pause, a long one.
Then Toby finally muttered, because of you. For the first time that night, Jay completely failed to hide his smile.
Their friendship deepened with each passing week. Neither of them talked about it. Neither of them asked what it meant.
They simply kept finding their way back to each other.
Jay started doing things without thinking.
When Toby skipped breakfast, Jay brought extra food. When Toby forgot his water bottle, another one would somehow appear on his desk before lunch.
When crowded hallways became too much, Jay would quietly move closer, creating space around him without drawing attention to it.
Small things.
The kind of things that didn't seem important until someone pointed them out. Jay might have continued getting away with it if nobody had noticed.
But Daniel noticed. Daniel noticed the food.
The water. The way Jay's eyes always searched for Toby first whenever he walked into a room.
The way his attention followed him without meaning to. And like many careless friends, Daniel turned something soft into a joke.
It happened during lunch break. The hallway was crowded with students moving between classes. Jay was leaning against a locker while Toby stood a few feet away, gathering books from his bag.
Daniel nudged Jay with his shoulder.
So, he said with a grin, "What's going on with you and Toby?" Jay looked up. "What do you mean?" Daniel laughed. "Come on."
You're always with him now, Jay shrugged.
"He's my friend, Daniel repeated. His grin widened.
Bro, you look at him like he's the only person in school. A few nearby students overheard.
Someone laughed, then another. The joke spread faster than it should have. Jay felt his stomach drop.
His face immediately grew warm.
And that's when he saw him, Toby, standing only a few feet away.
Close enough to hear every word. For a brief moment, their eyes met.
Jay panicked. "Don't be stupid," he blurted out. "It's not like that." The laughter died almost instantly. The hallway suddenly felt much quieter than before.
Daniel's smile disappeared.
"Whoa," he said awkwardly. "Relax. I was joking, but the damage had already been done." Toby didn't argue. He didn't get angry.
He didn't even try to defend himself.
Instead, something in his expression simply faded. A small light going out.
He lowered his eyes,
turned around, and walked away. Just like that. Jay watched him go. Part of him wanted to call out,
to explain, to say he hadn't meant it that way, that he had only panicked because everyone was watching.
But the words never came. So Toby kept walking, and Jay let him. That was what hurt the most. Not the joke, not the embarrassment, not even the silence afterward. It was the fact that Toby walked away, and Jay didn't stop him. After that, Jay changed. He stopped sitting beside Toby. He stopped bringing food. He stopped asking if Toby was okay.
He still noticed everything.
The tired look in Toby's eyes.
The untouched lunch.
The way Toby's hair fell into his face again.
But this time, Jay did nothing.
Not because he stopped caring. Because he was scared of what caring would cost him. And Toby understood.
Or at least he thought he did.
The next day, Toby came to class and found Jay sitting with Daniel. Jay saw him, then looked away. Toby sat at the back again.
The empty seat beside him felt louder than the room. At lunch, Toby opened his bag.
No food. No water bottle. No quiet voice telling him to drink.
He told himself it did not matter, but his hands stayed still.
Myra sat beside him. She looked at Toby and said, "He hurt you," Toby replied. "I was stupid." Myra shook her head.
"No, you trusted him," she said.
Toby stared at the table. "Same thing," he said. Myra's voice softened. "No, Toby, the wrong person makes it feel the same." Toby looked at his untouched food tray.
"I thought he saw me," he said.
Myra replied. "Maybe he did," Toby asked. "Then why did he make me feel invisible again?" Myra had no answer.
"Because some pain does not need explaining. It needs repair."
And Jay had not even tried. 3 days passed, then 4. Jay kept his distance.
At first, Toby waited for him to come back. Then he hated himself for waiting. By the 5th day, Toby stopped looking at the door when Jay entered. By the 6th day, he stopped saving space beside him.
By the 7th day, he stopped expecting kindness to last. Jay noticed each change. He noticed Toby answering teachers with a flat voice. He noticed Toby leaving class quickly. He noticed Toby eating with Myra, but barely speaking. He noticed Toby wearing his hair across his eyes again. Jay wanted to fix it, but guilt had made him useless.
One afternoon, Daniel looked at Jay and said, "You've been weird all week," Jay replied. "Leave it," Daniel asked. "Is this about Toby?"
Jay looked at him. Daniel said, "Bro, I said I was joking." Jay's face hardened. "That's the problem," he said. Daniel frowned. Jay continued, "You joked about him." He paused. "And I acted like he was something to be embarrassed about." Daniel went quiet.
Then he said, "So talk to him." Jay looked across the courtyard.
Toby was sitting beside Myra.
He looked calm.
Too calm. Jay said, "I don't think he wants to hear from me," Daniel replied. "Can you blame him?" Jay did not answer.
Because he could not. Their teacher paired them for a class project.
Toby wanted to refuse. Jay wanted to apologize. Neither knew how to begin.
So they sat in the library with a notebook between them and all the words they were too afraid to say.
Jay said, "Toby." Toby kept his eyes on the notebook and replied, "We should finish the project." Jay took a breath. "I'm sorry," he said.
Toby asked,
For what? Jay went quiet. Toby finally looked at him. Say it, Toby said. Jay swallowed.
For what I said, he replied. Toby shook his head.
No, his voice shook, but he did not look away.
For what you made me feel, Toby said.
Jay's eyes dropped. Toby continued. You don't get to make me feel safe in private and invisible in public. Jay said. I got scared. Toby asked. Of me? Jay replied. Of what I felt for you. Toby's eyes softened for a second.
Then his voice turned firm. That does not give you the right to hurt me, Toby said.
Jay nodded.
I know, he said.
Toby asked. Do you? Jay looked at him. Toby's breath caught.
Because you didn't just say something bad, Jay, he said.
You made me question every kind thing you ever did. Jay looked wounded.
But he did not defend himself.
Toby continued. The food, the water, the umbrella, the way you stood beside me. Toby swallowed.
I kept wondering if all of it only mattered when no one else could see. Jay said. It mattered, Toby asked. Then why did you stop?
Jay had no easy answer. Toby said. You left me with the same people who laughed at me. Jay's voice broke slightly. I'm sorry, he said. Toby replied. Sorry is not the same as safe. Jay went still. Toby said. You made me feel safe.
Then you made me feel stupid for believing it.
Jay said nothing.
Because this time, he finally heard the whole wound.
Not just the part he wanted to apologize for. Toby continued. If you are scared, say you are scared. If you are confused, say you are confused. Then Toby's voice became stronger.
But don't use me as proof that you are brave in private. Then hide me when people are watching.
Jay's eyes lowered. Toby said. Your fear is not bigger than my feelings. Jay nodded slowly.
You're right, he said.
Toby replied. I know I am. Jay almost smiled, but stopped himself. This was not the moment for charm. It was the moment for honesty. Jay said, I don't want to be the kind of person who only chooses you when it is easy. Toby replied. Then don't be, Jay said. I am trying. Toby looked at him. Trying starts after the apology, he said. Jay nodded again. Then I'll start now, he replied. Toby looked at him for a long moment. He did not forgive him immediately, and Jay did not ask him to.
That was the first thing Jay did right.
That evening, Jay waited outside the school gate. For once, he was not surrounded by friends.
No Daniel.
No crowd. No jokes. Just Jay, standing there like someone who finally understood what he had almost lost.
When Toby walked past, Jay said, Toby, wait. Toby did not stop.
I'm tired, Jay, he said. Jay nodded.
I know, he replied.
Toby kept walking. Jay followed, but kept a respectful distance. Jay said, I made you feel like something I was ashamed of. Toby stopped. Jay continued.
But I'm not ashamed of you. Toby turned slightly and asked, Then why did you act like it?
Jay took a breath.
Because I cared too much, and I didn't know what to do with it, he said.
Toby replied, That's not enough. Jay nodded. I know. Toby turned to him.
You keep saying you care, Toby said.
Jay replied, Because I do. Toby said. Then hear better. Jay went quiet. Toby's voice softened, but his words stayed strong.
Care is not just noticing when I'm thirsty, Toby said.
Care is not leaving me alone with the shame you created. Jay looked down.
You're right, he said.
Toby continued. I don't need you to be perfect. Jay looked up. But I need you to be honest, Toby said. Jay replied. I want to be. Toby said. Wanting is easy. Jay took another breath. Then let me prove it, he said.
Toby asked, How? Jay looked nervous.
For once, the popular boy had no smooth answer. By choosing you when people are watching, Jay said. Toby said nothing.
But he listened.
Jay continued. I don't expect you to trust me immediately, Toby replied. Good. Jay said, I just want a chance to earn it back. Toby looked at him for a long moment.
His heart wanted to believe him. His fear knew better than to rush. Then earn it, Toby said.
Jay nodded. I will, he replied. The next morning, Daniel found Jay near the lockers. Daniel asked, You're still mad? Jay replied. I'm not mad, Daniel said. Good, because it was just a joke. Jay closed his locker. It wasn't funny, Jay said. Daniel sighed.
I didn't know he would take it like that, he said.
Jay looked at him. That's the problem, Jay replied. You didn't think about him at all. Daniel went quiet. Jay continued. And I made it worse, Daniel asked. So what now? Jay looked across the hallway. Toby was standing near his locker, alone. Jay said, Now I stop pretending, Daniel replied. People might talk. Jay looked at him. Let them, he said. Daniel studied him. For once, Jay did not look away. Daniel said, You really care about him? Jay's voice was steady.
Yeah, he said.
I do. Daniel nodded slowly. Then I'm sorry, Daniel said. Jay replied. Don't tell me. He looked toward Toby. Tell him, Jay said. That morning, Toby entered class expecting the usual. Whispers, stares, silence. Jay was already there. Daniel sat beside him. The old Jay would have stayed where it was safe, but this Jay stood up, picked up his bag, and walked across the room. Jay sat beside Toby. The class went quiet.
Daniel looked confused.
Jay, what are you doing? Daniel asked. Jay looked at Toby first.
Then he looked at Daniel. Sitting where I want, Jay said.
He placed a bottle of water on Toby's desk, not secretly, not carefully, in front of everyone. Toby looked at the bottle, then at Jay.
You still notice?
Toby asked. Jay replied. I never stopped. Toby asked. Then why did you leave? Jay looked around the room, then back at Toby. Because I was scared, he said. The class became quiet. Jay's voice softened.
But I'm more scared of becoming someone who hurts you just to protect himself, he said.
Toby did not speak. Jay took a breath. I like you, Toby, he said.
A few students turned. Daniel looked down.
Jay did not stop. I should have said that before, he continued. Jay looked at Toby. Only Toby. Not as a joke. Not as a secret. Not after someone forced it out of me. Jay swallowed. I like you because you make me honest, he said. Toby's eyes softened.
But he did not smile yet.
Jay continued. And I know saying this now doesn't fix everything, Toby replied. It doesn't, Jay nodded.
I know, he said. Then he paused. But can I take you out this weekend?
Jay asked. Toby blinked. Like friends? He asked. Jay smiled nervously.
No, he said. He took another breath.
As a date, the classroom went silent. Toby looked down, not to hide, to think.
When he looked up, his voice was quiet.
You're asking me in front of everyone? Toby asked.
Jay replied. You said I had to prove it.
Toby studied him. This is only the first step, Toby said. Jay replied. I know, Toby added. If I say yes, it doesn't mean you're forgiven completely. Jay nodded.
I know that too, he said.
Toby finally smiled. Small, careful, real. Then yes, Toby said. Jay smiled properly for the first time in days, and for once, Toby did not feel hidden. He did not feel like a secret.
He felt chosen.
After class, Daniel walked up to Toby. For once, he was not laughing.
Daniel said, Hey. Toby looked cautious.
Daniel continued, I am sorry for what I said. Toby replied. You embarrassed me, Daniel nodded.
I know, he said.
He looked uncomfortable, but sincere. I treated something important like a joke, Daniel said. Toby did not answer right away. Daniel added, and I made it easier for Jay to hurt you. Jay stood beside them.
Quiet.
Present.
But he did not speak for Toby.
Toby looked at Daniel. Don't do it again, Toby said. Daniel replied. I won't, Toby said. Not to me. Then he paused. Not to anyone, Daniel nodded.
Yeah, he said.
Toby replied. Okay. That was all Toby gave him. Not instant friendship. Not easy forgiveness. Just a chance to be better. Jay looked at Toby with quiet respect. He was learning something important.
Toby was soft, but he was not weak.
The date was supposed to start at noon. Toby arrived at 11:50.
Then walked past the theater.
Then came back.
Then walked past it again. His stomach felt nervous. His hands felt nervous.
Even his shoelaces somehow felt nervous. This was ridiculous. It was just Jay. The same Jay he talked to every day. The same Jay who had confessed first. The same Jay who now technically Toby stopped that thought immediately.
A familiar voice interrupted him.
Please tell me you've only been waiting 5 minutes. Toby turned. Jay was jogging toward him, slightly out of breath and holding 2 movie tickets above his head. His hair was a mess.
His smile was even worse.
Toby immediately forgot half the reasons he had been nervous. You were early, Toby said. Jay blinked.
I am 2 minutes early. I was here 10 minutes ago. Jay stared.
Then laughed.
Of course you were. He held up the tickets proudly.
Look. Toby examined them. You look like you won a national award. I got good seats. Did you? Jay confidently checked the tickets. His expression changed. Toby watched carefully. Jay looked at the tickets again. Then at Toby.
Then back at the tickets.
They are. Jay began. A pause. Seats. Toby already knew. Jay, they might be front row. Toby closed his eyes. Jay pointed accusingly at the air.
The website was confusing. You had one job. There it is. Toby opened one eye.
What, that? Jay smiled. The teasing. Toby looked away.
His ears warmed slightly.
Jay's smile softened. I like it. The answer came so naturally that neither of them expected it.
Toby opened one eye.
What, that? Jay smiled. The teasing. Toby looked away.
His ears warmed slightly.
Jay's smile softened. I like it. The answer came so naturally that neither of them expected it. Come on, Jay grinned. Saving me from my feelings already?
Don't ruin the date before it starts, see?
Teasing. Inside the theater, Toby seemed different.
Not completely relaxed,
But lighter.
happier.
Jay noticed everything. The way Toby stopped to look at every movie poster. The way he carefully carried the popcorn with both hands. The way his eyes brightened when the lights began to dim. Jay noticed all of it. And this time, he didn't pretend not to. I haven't been to a movie in years, Toby admitted quietly. Jay smiled.
Then I picked the right place. What if the movie is terrible?
Then I'll complain dramatically. You do that anyway. Jay looked offended. I do not. Toby gave him a look. Yesterday you declared war on the cafeteria because they forgot one chicken nugget. It wasn't about the nugget. What was it about? Justice. It was lunch. It was personal. Toby laughed.
A real laugh.
The kind that escaped before he could stop it. Jay stared. Toby immediately noticed. What? Nothing. You're doing the face. What face?
The face people make when they want to say something embarrassing.
Jay groaned. You noticed too much. Toby smiled. You taught me. For a moment, Jay couldn't answer. Not because he didn't have one.
Because hearing that made something warm settle in his chest. Then the movie started. And for a while, neither of them spoke.
Halfway through the film,
An especially loud scene exploded through the speakers.
Toby flinched. Just slightly. Most people wouldn't have noticed. Jay did. He leaned closer.
Too loud?
A little. You want to step outside?
Toby shook his head.
No. Then after a small pause, he added, just stay. Jay looked at him.
Then nodded.
I'm here. Toby relaxed immediately. Those two words should have been simple.
But coming from Jay, they felt like a promise.
A little while later, their hands ended up resting on the same armrest. Neither moved. Neither pulled away. Toby glanced down.
Then slowly shifted his hand closer.
A silent question. Jay answered by gently intertwining their fingers. Neither of them looked at each other.
But both of them smiled.
And for the rest of the movie, neither let go. Their hands remained linked for the rest of the movie. Neither of them mentioned it. Neither of them let go. And when the credits rolled, Toby realized something.
For the first time in a very long time, being close to someone didn't make him want to run. It made him want to stay.
Neither of them looked at each other. Neither of them said a word.
Yet both of them smiled.
And for the rest of the movie, neither let go.
Their hands remained linked through every scene, every laugh, every quiet moment illuminated by the glow of the screen.
Neither of them mentioned it. Neither of them needed to.
Some things felt too precious to interrupt with words.
When the credits finally began to roll, Toby found himself staring at the screen without really seeing it. Instead, he became aware of the warmth of Jay's hand in his, the steady presence beside him, the strange sense of peace settling in his chest. And in that moment, Toby realized something.
For the first time in a very long time, being close to someone didn't make him want to run.
It didn't make him nervous or exhausted or afraid.
For the first time, being close to someone felt safe. And more than anything else, it made him want to stay. After that, dating became surprisingly easy.
Not because either of them knew what they were doing.
They absolutely did not.
But because being together already felt natural.
Sometimes Jay planned elaborate outings that immediately fell apart.
Sometimes they spent an entire afternoon wandering around town with no plan at all. Neither seemed to mind. A date could be a movie, a walk,
a bookstore, a shared bag of chips on a park bench.
The activity changed.
The company didn't.
Weeks passed.
And little by little, they became accustomed to reaching for each other. To text messages that arrived first thing in the morning. To goodnight messages that lasted far longer than necessary.
To knowing they would see each other again.
3 weeks later, Toby arrived at a small restaurant.
The weather was warmer. The nervousness was smaller. Not gone. Just different.
Because this wasn't their first date anymore. And somehow, that made it feel more important.
The first date had been about discovering they liked being together. This one was about learning who they were becoming. Jay waved from a booth near the window. Toby walked over and sat down. You're early, Jay said. Toby raised an eyebrow. So are you. That's because you infected me. I did not. You did, Jay pointed dramatically.
Before you, I arrived exactly on time. That sounds made up.
It is made up, Toby sighed.
I knew it, Jay grinned.
And just like that, the date began.
Toby looked at the menu outside.
Immediately, his eyes found the cheapest item. Jay noticed. Of course he noticed. You can order anything, I know. You went straight for the cheapest thing. I'm practical. Jay's expression softened. And I like seeing you enjoy things. Toby looked up. For a moment, he searched Jay's face, looking for a joke, finding none. You really mean that? I do. The answer came immediately. No hesitation.
No teasing.
Just honesty. Toby looked back down at the menu. A small smile appeared.
Then I want fries too, Jay grinned.
Now we are making progress. They found a booth near the window. For a while, conversation flowed easily.
Movie scenes,
School gossip, Daniel's terrible basketball skills, things that felt normal,
comfortable.
safe. At one point, Toby asked quietly, "You don't think safe is boring?" Jay looked up. No, his voice became gentler.
I think safe sounds nice when someone hasn't had enough of it. Toby froze.
Not because the words hurt.
Because they didn't. There was no pity in them. No sympathy.
No attempt to fix him. Just understanding.
And somehow that felt far more dangerous. You say things like that, Toby muttered, and expect me to stay normal. Jay laughed. I don't think normal is our thing. Toby tried not to smile.
He lasted about 3 seconds.
Then he lost.
And sitting across from him, watching that smile stay a little longer than usual, Jay decided this was already his favorite date. And sitting across from him, watching that smile stay a little longer than usual, Jay realized he was in trouble. Not the bad kind. The kind that made his heart beat a little faster every time Toby looked at him. The kind that made ordinary moments feel important. The kind that made him want to memorize everything. The way Toby smiled when he forgot to be self-conscious. The way he looked down whenever he was embarrassed. The way his eyes softened whenever he felt safe. Jay had never felt anything quite like it before. Lately, his thoughts seemed to circle back to Toby no matter what he was doing.
A song would remind him of Toby.
A joke would remind him of Toby. Sometimes Toby wasn't even there. And somehow Jay would still find himself thinking about him. It was ridiculous and completely unavoidable. Across the table, Toby was saying something about the menu. Jay wasn't listening anymore. Not because he didn't want to.
Because he was distracted by the simple fact that Toby was there.
Right in front of him. Real.
Smiling. Happy. Before he could stop himself, Jay reached across the table. His fingers brushed softly against Toby's cheek.
The movement surprised both of them. Toby froze. Jay froze.
For a moment, neither of them spoke.
Then Toby's face slowly turned pink, and Jay suddenly remembered how breathing worked. "Sorry," he said quickly.
But Toby shook his head. His smile was small, shy, yet unmistakably fond.
"It's okay." Neither of them looked away.
And somehow, that felt far more dangerous than holding hands in a dark movie theater.
After dinner, they walked slowly through the evening streets. Neither of them wanted the night to end. The city around them had begun to quiet down.
Storefront lights glowed warmly against the darkening sky, and the occasional passing car was little more than background noise. For most of his life, silence had made Toby feel alone.
Tonight, it didn't. Tonight, silence felt comfortable. It felt shared. Beside him, Jay walked with his hands in his pockets, stealing glances whenever he thought Toby wasn't looking. Toby noticed every single one. After a while, he smiled. "You look nervous." Jay laughed softly. "I am." Toby raised an eyebrow. "You?" Jay looked over at him. "With you, yes." That answer made Toby's smile fade into something gentler, something more thoughtful. "Why?" Jay slowed to a stop. A moment later, Toby stopped too. The streetlight above them cast a soft glow across the empty sidewalk. For a few seconds, Jay searched for the right words. Then he gave up searching and told the truth instead.
"Because you matter to me." Toby's heart stumbled.
The words were simple.
But somehow, they landed harder than grand speeches ever could.
"I'm scared too,"
Toby admitted quietly.
Jay's expression softened.
"Of me?" Toby shook his head.
"Of trusting this?" He looked down briefly.
"People are kind sometimes." A pause. "Then they leave." Jay listened.
He didn't interrupt. He didn't rush to reassure him. He simply stood there and let Toby finish. "Maybe they don't mean to," Toby continued.
"But they leave anyway." For a moment, neither of them spoke.
Then Jay nodded. "You're right." Toby blinked.
That wasn't the answer he expected.
Jay took a breath. Wanting to stay is easy. His voice was calm.
Actually staying is the hard part.
Toby looked up. Jay met his gaze.
"So I'll keep showing you." "Showing me what?"
"That I'm here." Jay smiled faintly.
"Tomorrow," a pause. "The day after that," another pause.
"And the day after that." Something tightened in Toby's chest. Not fear. Not sadness.
Something warmer. Something far more dangerous.
Hope. Jay took a step closer.
"I don't expect you to trust me all at once." His voice had become quieter now. "But I want to earn it." Toby stared at him.
Nobody had ever said that to him before.
Not like that.
Not without asking for something in return. Jay laughed softly.
"You know, before you, I thought confidence meant never being afraid." Toby listened.
"But with you, Jay shook his head. I am terrified half the time. That earned a laugh. A real one. The kind that made Jay smile immediately.
There you are, he said.
Toby rolled his eyes.
Don't ruin the moment, no promises. The familiar teasing settled some of the emotion between them.
Not enough to make it disappear.
Just enough to let them breathe. For a while, they stood there under the streetlight. Two boys who had spent months misunderstanding their feelings.
Months running toward each other. Months running away. And somehow, despite every mistake, they had ended up here. Together. Jay's gaze softened. I think I'm in love with you. The words hung in the night air. No hesitation.
No hiding.
Just truth. Toby looked at him for a long moment.
Then smiled.
A small smile.
But one that reached his eyes.
I know. Jay laughed. That's your response?
It's an accurate response. Jay shook his head.
Impossible. Completely impossible.
And yet somehow his favorite person in the world.
Toby stepped closer.
Close enough that neither of them had to raise their voices anymore. Close enough that running suddenly felt very far away.
I think I'm in love with you too, he said. For a moment, neither moved.
The world seemed unusually quiet.
As if even time itself had paused to listen.
Then Jay gently lifted a hand and brushed it against Toby's cheek.
This time, neither of them froze. Neither of them looked away. And when they kissed, it felt less like a beginning and more like a promise. A promise to keep trying. A promise to keep showing up. A promise to stay.
When they finally pulled apart, Toby was smiling.
Not the careful smiles he used to hide behind. Not the fleeting ones that disappeared too quickly. This one stayed. Jay smiled too. And together, they continued down the street. Not because they had reached the end of their story, but because, for the first time, they were walking toward the future together, and neither of them let go. The future was still uncertain. They would have arguments.
They would make mistakes. There would be days when loving each other felt easy.
And days when it didn't. But neither of them was expecting perfection anymore. Just effort. Just honesty. Just someone willing to stay. For Toby, that meant learning that not everyone leaves. For Jay, it meant learning that love was more than a feeling. It was a choice made every day. And as they walked forward together, hand in hand beneath the glow of the streetlights, neither of them knew exactly what the future would look like. For once, they didn't need to, because they weren't facing it alone. The end. Thank you for spending time with Jay and Toby's story. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next upload. And if you have a favorite moment from the story, let us know in the comments below. See you in the next story.